Howdy. I'm actually really thirsty, sorry. Mm, mm, I'm gonna have to fix that. Um, so this week's topic is binding, and I'm sorry I've been kind of missing. It's like my second week back at college, and between post-op and getting back to college, it's been a lot. But the topic was about binding, and most of the time when you see people talk about binding, they're really just talking about proper binding techniques and some of the things that can go wrong when you bind, and that's not really what I'm gonna talk about. Like, because you can find it anywhere else, and I'm pretty sure most of you have seen this before. And if you're significant others, Tumblr, like you can find it. What I really want to talk about when it comes to binding, especially being someone who's post-op, even though I'm still binding because of my vest, um, is really like what binding will do to you physically and mentally. And then the importance, like for people, my suggestions for people who do bind, because I was a bigger chested dude. Um, don't mind me, I'm itchy. Because I was a bigger chested dude, I most of the people that I do see who are like repping the trans perspective, are thinner and not to get too racial, but are white. And white males tend to have a different style, cultural style, and fit like body appearance than black males. So that a lot of the tips I was looking at just weren't gonna work for me. And if they did, I looked weird because they're like, that's not, you know. So I was like, uh-uh. I had a size F cup, so when they went in, they removed like 9 pounds. But the thing is that I couldn't just wear one binder, so I ended up wearing two, and I don't recommend it because people ask me, how did you? I was like, I wore two binders. I did not wear the same binder on top of each other for a reason. I use Underworks, and that's just because they have easier sizes to measure. It was just I knew it. I was like, fine. I used to use the I think the extra large 997s for my under binder, the one that be directly on my body, and then I use a sports compression binder on top of it. And the reason I did that was that two 997s or anyone made of that same material slide against each other, and then they roll and they fall off and then they ride up and it's too much. But the sports compression binder is like double layered, but the material is different. So then it just kind of sticks to it and doesn't move. So I was like, all right, cool, great. Um, but the it allowed me to get the flattened appearance because the 997 would flatten you, but it created these very harsh lines underneath of where you could see the breast was being flattened. When you have a lot of breast, that's all you really can do. So this other binder would not only slightly compress more, but like slightly soften it, and that was why I would bind. But I realized that I couldn't do it too long, because I just physically couldn't breathe. And so I would try to figure out when it was that I needed to bind, and then I would literally, because I had a single at the time, I would spend time just not, just, just by myself, just allowing myself to breathe. Um, the problem that I've noticed is, and there's one guy who talks about how to like the trans man's guide to being like a hot guy, and one of the things he really points out is that the actual flattening of your chest isn't what makes you look masculine upon first glance. It's the body shape. Whether you look like a triangle, a newspaper, or upside down triangle, essentially. And so it's kind of like if to make the appearance look better, instead of looking like a box, because wearing binders made me look barrel chested, because it was like all of this chest, and then it would be right on my stomach, and the way it just makes you look all interesting. Not really in a good way. Um, the idea is that the broader your shoulders are, the more masculine you appear, and even if you don't have to have a tiny waist, it's just as long as your waist is smaller than. I mean, you don't have to be like an itty bitty point, but as long as you have a slight angle where your shoulders are broader, it just helps, right? So I figured that that would be very beneficial to creating the shape that I wanted to get. But the problem that I also had was exercise. And this is another thing that I mean I see guys, they're like they don't really offer as many solutions about it because it's hard. Is how do you exercise and bind? And the guys that I see that usually are talking about this are younger dudes or thinner dudes who don't have the same problem that a bigger guy has. For bigger guys, what I honestly say, and I know it's really kind of like counterintuitive to what a man should do, is walk. Like when in doubt, walk. There are like so many cool walking programs and everything because if you're like me, this is the thing that I've noticed no one really talks about. Is there's a situation that when it becomes a legal problem. Most guys are like, I don't go to the gym because of a personal dysphoria. I don't know which bathroom look like, especially if you're like, I got this man face, but I got breasts, I don't know what to do, right? If you haven't changed your legal information, like some guys are still pre-legal change, then legally it's difficult because if somebody notices something, then that's a problem. But if you've made the legal change, again, it's a legal issue because I got my marker changed in August, and I'm like, I mean, if I go to the campus thing, if I was like, oh, I'm gonna go on campus and work out, and I don't feel comfortable in the men's room, and I was like, I don't know what to do because if I went into the women's room and someone felt threatened and asked me for my license, because it's rude to actually ask you to appear naked. It would say male, and they'd be like, "Why is there sky?" And it's like, how do you explain that? So for some guys, it really is depending on where you are legally. There's a problem in either direction that you go. So if you're a bigger guy and you know that being bigger it makes it a little harder for you to pass because you don't like your face might be softer or for whatever variety of reasons. Um, the binding is going to make it difficult. So if you don't have the ability to go to a gym or it's physically too much because exercising in a binder is dangerous, which is why I didn't do it. Often I did it like 3 times and I gave up. Just walking. Because it's something that you can do with binder, without binder, and on your time, and it'll help you lose the weight necessary, or at least redistribute the weight in a way that'll make it more comfortable to wear the binder, as well as give you more of room to breathe, kind of, sort of, and allow you to lose the weight that you might be looking for if you're going to go and do surgery. Binding as well helps to flatten the chest even more. So when the doctor goes in to take it out, it's like, oh, this isn't all this voluptuousness that I have to deal with. Um, and if you lose weight, not only does it help your muscles strengthen to give you a better idea for the doctor to figure out how he wants to contour it, it just overall helps you feel better once if you take the post surgical route. Um, but my issue, like when I say like if you're gonna bind, they always say you don't use ace bandages. Baby powder is a thing. Like my friend AJ reminded me of that. Baby powder is a serious thing because number one, if you bind, you're gonna sweat and you're gonna itch. But number two, if you bind, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna itch, and if you're a bigger dude, then there's a lot of physics and biology going on that you really don't want to deal with. Trust and believe, baby powder was my thing. It is not sexy, but sexy versus itchy, and you look like you have a problem because you're just like, I can't. Trust me, it's great. Baby powder, always a thing. Um, but personally, like, binding in itself honestly caused me a lot more dysphoria at times than not binding because I would bind and it was like to me a reminder like, oh my god, like I'm so far away from my goal. Um, and I felt more self-conscious because of the nature of the binder. And I was thinking people were looking directly at my chest, but a lot of it's that they're looking at your body shape, and then when they can't figure it out from looking at your body shape or your face, then they look at your chest. And so then I'm already like, I look young in the face. I'm 5'3", so everyone like, oh, you must be, you know what I'm saying? It was just a lot of dysphoria that binding did cause me. Um, but it also gave me the ability in some cases to be a lot more confident. Button downs are a thing. They always Google that. Button downs are a thing. But one of the things I will tell you, and this is one of the things I'm still dealing with, and I'll be dealing with for a while, for a few more months, is that I'm right now like I'm sitting like I used to bind because I'm sitting hunched over, and I have to remember that I actually need to sit. Like I can sit up now because all that chest I used to bind all the time. And you used to do it, you do it to make that like I'm gonna make this masculine. Not really. I have the vest on. I'm absolutely sorry. You're like I'm gonna hunch over because it keeps the shirt. But now when being post-op, you can like sit up. That's something you really might want to try if you're gonna bind. I honestly suggest is sitting straight up. It allows you to breathe. It allows you to breathe more from your diaphragm instead of out of your lungs because that's where all the pressure is gonna be. But if again, like I said, if you're going to go post-op, which is usually what people do when they bind and they bind continually, that you're gonna want to get used to sitting up because you'll be able to throw your shoulder back and breathe. It gives you a longer appearance, sometimes a leaner appearance, and a more masculine appearance, a more I'm in control appearance. There's all these other reasons, but part of it is that binding does put a stress on people in such a way that they end up hunching. And you don't really want to hunch. So that's really kind of my thoughts, my feelings, my feels, my thing. Hopefully this helps, and I hope all works out for all of you, and we will see you later. You all have a good one. This is Dex, and I will see you all next week. For sure, I promise. Alright, so I'll talk to y'all later.